I'm pretty sure we're still more. I'm sorry.
There you go.
Might have been
Are we-
a little
Sorry,
bump.
because we restarted a new meeting. I got screwed up. Sorry about that.
So we're gonna start from the beginning again.
Yeah. We'll ask now. Can you hear now?
Can you hear?
Same thing, yeah, they're all.
Okay.
All right. So hello, everyone. Good evening. Welcome to the Town of Madison's Board of Finance Fiscal 23 public hearing for the budget. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. For those of you who don't know, we're just going through this again because some members of the public could not hear. And the reason I'm dressed like this, I was coaching a softball game, but I'm not going to get into all that right now. We're still playing. I'm John Picarda. I'm the Board of Finance. I want to introduce the members: Cindy Breckenheimer, Vice Chair, Gene Fitzgerald, Fillmore McPherson, Justin Murphy, and Katie Stein. Sorry, Phil, I'm not giving you the accolades right now. That's it.
Don't need it.
I know you don't. This board works tremendously together. We don't always agree. We work hard. We do what we think is best for the long-term fiscal health of the town of Madison. And I really want to thank them for all the hours and how much we work together. We talk a lot and we share ideas, and at the end of the day, it's working to do what's best for Madison. So thank you. And they would all echo this statement, but I don't know what we do without Stacy Novitz in the finance office. Sometimes on Saturdays, sometimes on Sundays, sometimes under difficult situations, we are calling them, or at least I am, and emailing them, and again, working together for the long-term health of Madison. So thank you. Tonight's agenda is obviously the fiscal 23 budget public hearing, the Board of Finance's approach, fiscal responsibility and long-term planning, the budget overview between the Board of Ed, the Board of Selectmen, and the Board of Finance. You know, public employees, all of us working together to do what we can to help the town of Madison. At the end, there will be public comment. So the Board of Finance approach is to prioritize the community needs in response to the economic conditions. We've gone through COVID. It's still part of us. I know there were some decisions that were made the last couple of years at the Board of Finance to do everything we can and using some of the fund balance to keep the taxes stabilized. I'm going to talk about that a little bit at the end of this, about the use of fund balance, but those were economic conditions, those were tough economic conditions, and we all work together to do what's best. Along those lines, everyone who, I'm assuming most people know that the referendum for the school projects in Academy passed. And whether you voted for it or whether you did not vote for it or you didn't get a chance to vote, it did pass. Our job as a Board of Finance working together is to do the best we can with that long-term planning to create stability in our taxes. So there's long-range financial planning, budget forecasting, along with our goals and objectives. We made a major commitment to investment in our capital assets, and we want to create the stability in our property taxes. We're trying to stay away from the spikes in taxes. So you're going to hear that. It's a reoccurring theme, and proud of the board and the work they've done. So the town of Madison's Board of Finance recommended budget for fiscal 23 is $31,104,668, which is a 6.77% increase for the town's budget. That's an increase of a little over 1.9 million from last year. A good portion of that money, you'll see in a later slide, is towards our capital side of the budget. We're trying to show stability in our taxes, and that's a good portion of that. Thank you, Katie. The Board of Education budget went up by 1.66%. It's $60,255,417. The total budget is $91,360,085. So I'm going to address the Board of Education budget in a little bit. And I want to talk just briefly about the 3.44% increase on the total budget. That's on the expenditure side. We've had a little more than expected grant list growth, and that's going to help offset the mill rate some. So the mill rate will not increase by the 3.44. But I just want to point that out, and later on in the slides, we'll address that a little bit more. So on this slide, it's kind of hard to see here. right, it's even harder to see if you don't get to move.
Hold on, no, stop for a second.
All right. So we have the operating budget, and I want to, in the capital projects, what I really want to point out here is the line under capital projects. And you can see that $1,000,025, that's a 28% increase again, and I know you've heard me say it 2 or 3 times. That's to increase that budget to create stability in our taxes. As we know, between the referendum, that those numbers are going to go higher. We're trying to level those taxes in the future. And that's, so your debt service went up, these are contractual issues, your health insurance and funded self-insurance went up, capital projects, the reserve fund a little bit, and that's where your 6.77% increases on the town side. But a large portion of that is the extra $1 million for the capital projects. Madison Public Schools. I wanted to come back to this for a reason. I'm pretty sure Dr. Cook, I know Dr. Cook is on this meeting, and I want to thank him for attending, but general education went up by over $1 million, $1.1 million, so the increase is 3.6%. It wasn't 1.66%. And the reason I'm pointing that out is obviously education is very important to all of us, and the Board of Ed and Dr. Cook. The reason the overall number is not 3.6% and only 1.66 is because the debt service on the Board of Ed side went down. So there is an increase in spending for, for our children, just that the debt service went down. So the total increase was $982,380 and a 1.66% increase. Capital expenditures by department. I'm just going to focus on fiscal 23, so 22, 23. There's a number of projects in here. You see the total at the bottom is $7,126,864. And I know that number is larger than the other ones going out in the outgoing years, but there is over $2 million, a couple $100,000 in ARPA money, and over $1.9 million in grants. So that number is not going to be 7, it's going to be closer to $5 million, or right around $5 million. I think that's important to point out. One, for receiving the grant revenue, but also bring that number down. Town of Madison, the annual capital budget summary, Board of Finance recommended. Basically, to go through this, you see the capital not reoccurring again, where it's increased from the previous year. Major roads, I mean, the way I understand this fund has been here is to kind of grow this fund by 3% per year. We did increase this number on the capital side as a Board of Finance by $750,000 to create the stability in our taxes for outgoing years. Board of Finance projected revenue changes from last year. So basically, there's a decrease of about $336,597 net. Other revenue that dropped. There's 2 main reasons for this. One is the interest rates. I gave Stacy and her team accolades just a few minutes ago. In large part, they locked in a higher interest rate. That interest rate is not, the period has ended, so they're going to earn less on our general fund money, on our reserve funds. And the other part of that is the O&M lease. Now that the referendum passed, they have the ability to buy the building, so those 2 numbers are largely why that came down. So the revenue is a little bit less for fiscal 23. So potential impact on the 2022-23 mill rate. The total town of Madison budget as presented was $91,360,085. That's 29.32 mills with an increase of about 1.63%. The average assessed home value of $400,000, that equates to about $188 tax increase per year. So I did want to point out, and this is not fair to the board, but we're taking $750 from the reserve fund. I'd like to see us, and we have not discussed this yet, I'm trying to, and I'm sure the board will have a healthy discussion, is to lower that number. We're trying to, for lack of better terms, weed off, taking money off the general fund. We need to lower that number. Having the reserve fund is great when you start to use it for the operating budget. We did use it during COVID, we said that earlier, but I'd like to see us lower that number with the caveat that I'd still like to see the increase stay under 2%. So something, again, to the board that I'd like to discuss, but with the caveat that we keep the mill rate increase under 2%. The town referendum is May 17, 2022. The Board of Finance will set the mill rate on May 18, 2022. Now I'm going to ask if there's anybody from the public who has some comments. If they do, we need their name and address. You have to help me virtually.
Is this comments about the finances or the public comment section?
This is comments about the budget hearing that you just heard. Thank you. Anybody from the public who'd like to speak on the budget public presentation? Second time? Third time, there being none, the public information session is now closed. No one virtually, Lauren? Thank you, everyone, for attending. We do appreciate your time.
We couldn't hear that. I couldn't hear down here. Can you start over?
Good, here, we're gonna start from the top again.
One more time.
Three or four times, I might get it right. Thank you, everyone, for attending. We're gonna take a 2-minute break and start a Board of Finance meeting.
Where you going?